good afternoon from Vietnam. Good morning to you, Lucas. Thanks a lot for spending your morning on a Monday in the beginning of the week to join our program to share your amazing journey stories to our audience around the world. And on behalf of the listeners, I want to say thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. It's a pleasure.
And Vivian sent you a warm and big hug from Japan. She's traveling at the moment, so she's not able to join. But she said I send her big love and hugs to Lucas.
I appreciate it. All the best to her as well.
Yeah, and you came to our country last time. We missed you. We were in the US, and then you came. But I believe that we're gonna meet sometime very, very soon. So let's make it happen. Meanwhile, because you came here, you know our culture is very honored of our audience. If we can hear Lucas to share a little bit to them about who you are and the works that you are doing, would you please do that honor for us?
Absolutely, yeah. So I was born in Michigan, Ann Arbor in the US, and then my parents moved back to Switzerland, so they're Swiss. That means I'm Swiss American. And I grew up here in this wonderful country, and I did my education here. And then I originally wanted to become a musical actor. That was the idea. And I auditioned for it, and I went dancing and singing in London. But it just didn't. I got to the last audition round, and then it didn't work out. And I was like, you know what? Let's try again. I got so far. Let's try again, right? In a year. I can try again in a year. And so I took a job in Switzerland in IT, marketing in IT. And I started doing that. And through that, I met at the time, head of science for NASA, Thomas Zurbuchen. And we knew he was going to quit his job by the end of the year. So what we did is kind of as a small thank you for him doing a presentation for us, we built his personal website. And through that kind of grew this collaboration first with Thomas, where I, sell his services, promote him, organize interviews just like this one, and a lot of other stuff. And then it grew beyond that, and now I have 7 absolutely amazing keynote speakers that I have the absolute honor of, being able to spend time with and listen to, and of course share that experience with other people.
Lucas, I think the people that you represent is super elite. That's first, okay. And I don't think that anyone who in the speaking industry will have the privilege of not only having them at the as the represent as speakers, right? But also, I think they're a lot more like family to you. So they trust you and they're very close to your circle. So what did you do? Is a topic that we're going to explore in all this conversation, a part of this conversation today. But before we go to that part, let me share with you this. You have a beautiful journey, okay? Born in America, raised and studied in Switzerland, and have a side of art and doing the business. And you introduced to us in less than 2 minutes. And it's not fair for our audience. So I'm going to bring you all the way back. And we're going to travel time. We're going to dive deeper onto the journey. Okay?
Sure
How
thing.
does that sound? How does that sound?
Let's go.
All righty. So the last time you came, I believe that you passed by my hometown, Da Nang City. That's where I grew up. Okay? And 40-something years ago, it's a very small, very, like poor community there. I was born in a very poor and small family. One night we had electricity. The next night we did not have electricity. So I always wanted to become an astronaut when I was little. And perhaps that dream is burning inside of me, that leading to our meeting, and that's leading to, conversation with Charlie Duke and Thomas, right? And so for Vivian, she wanted to become a singer. But life had taken us to a very different path. So for Lucas, when you were little, what was your dream about? The things that you're gonna do or yourself when you grow up in the future.
It's crazy. When I was very little, I wanted to become an archaeologist.
Archaeologists.
So, go out there and dig up secret treasures that no one's seen before and understand the world in ways that nobody has before.
Ah,
And then I learned you have to know Latin to do that. And I
ah,
took Latin in high school, and I was not a fan. I was not amused. Um, and then I was oscillating between this and being a bug researcher. That was the
bug.
other dream I had as a kid.
Uh-huh,
Yeah, kind of, go into the Amazonian rainforest
uh-huh.
and look for new species of bugs. I guess I just liked animals in general.
So, so archaeologist and bug researcher. Was there any inspiration in the family that leading to that dream, or just something that out of the blue you had, the desire to, to love bugs, love animals, or to, love history of the world of humankind? Or what?
So I had the privilege of having parents who, showed me a whole lot of stuff when I was a kid. And they would take me to dinosaur museums. And keep in mind, I know paleontology and archaeology is not the same thing. But as a kid, I didn't. So anything that's old is archaeology, right?
Uh-huh.
And these kind of things just fascinated me. And we'd also, we'd go out together and we'd go out with these little spy glasses and little containers and try to catch bugs and look at them and then, release them again and keep playing around.
Uh,
So I think that's how that existed.
and since when you know that you have to know Latin in order for you to become an like professional archaeologist?
That started before high school, so I would say around fifth or sixth grade. They
Uh-huh.
were telling me, you have to know Latin to do that. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll just learn Latin.
And then that dream into what you've been pursuing after, into university, into what you do today, is completely different. So at what point is a turning point for you, Lucas?
Yeah. I would say when I started uni,
Ah,
I kind of, I'd kind of given up on the archaeology idea on the one side because of job opportunities, and the other side because I realized I love the idea of it, but I don't love the execution of it. And
ah.
if you just love the idea and not the execution, you're gonna have a tough job. And and so I was kind of lost. I didn't really know what I was going to do, and so I just said, you know what, I'll start learning something where I can do everything afterwards, and that was computer science. So I started with computer science, and that didn't work out.
What
There's a
happened?
lot in this journey that didn't work out, but that didn't work out.
Uh-huh.
And then I had two friends, and one of my friends did English, and one of my friends did geography. And I thought what they told me about their studies sounded really interesting. And so I just kind of went out there and had a look and saw, okay, that seems interesting. So I started studying it. But it never really, people ask you all the time, what do you do when you study English and geography? Become a high school teacher?
Uh-huh.
And that is a great job. That is, I mean, doing stuff for the future of kids is great and honorable, and I have no issues with it at all. I just also don't want to do it. It doesn't inspire me. It doesn't drive me and push me to become better. So I understood then I need to do something else, but I didn't know what yet. I didn't know
Ah.
what. And one of the ideas was musical acting because it inspires people, because it moves people emotionally, because it had such a big impact on me. It can also have such a big impact on other people. And
Oh.
so my company afterwards happened completely by accident, and I love it.
Lucas, my wife and I, after the journey of interviewing experts in over 1,200 experts in many different fields in over 100 countries and all 7 continents. And one thing that we easily can see, from their amazing journey, their fulfilling lives, and they love what they do because they have the ability we name now is a newness intelligence, and we're working on it to develop the framework and everything for that, because they're not afraid of change. You look at your life, you have different ideas, you have different dreams, and at some checkpoint you realize, oh, you this is just an idea, but you didn't like the execution for that. So what's new things that you could do, right? And you went into the computer science world and didn't work out. So okay, what new thing that you could do? So you get into conversation with your existing friends back then, but they listen to their ideas, the new thing that they share with you, and then you put them together onto something new you do. And then you got into something that moves you, that you think that's going to move other people too. So that is newness. You have that inside of you to continue to explore and see what else that you could become. And the more that you can become, the more that you can add values to the people around you, right? So bring me to the moment that you found out the love for music, for performing arts, right? And you wanna, invest more onto that. I think you went on to like performance competition also, right? And recent you also won the performance in Switzerland also. Congratulations! Tell us more of
Thank
that,
you.
Lucas. Tell
Yeah,
us
so
more.
so one step before that, you said, I'm not afraid of change. I am afraid of change.
You
I'm
are.
I'm afraid of change every time.
Oh,
Um, but I just believe that it's so necessary for anyone to keep growing. And fear just means you're taking a big step. You don't know what's happening. You don't know what's coming. You don't know how to feel about it. And that to me also means excitement, right?
wow.
Because I want to do things that I've never done before. I want to feel things I've never done before. I want to experience things I've never done before. And I can't do that by doing things that I have known for a while. And so I would say I am afraid of change, but I'm just such a big believer in change that I convince myself every time that it's a good idea anyway.
Wow. So I would love to hear from you when you define newness, because when you say that you're afraid of change, but fear is just a factor of that, and you have to overcome that for you to continue to learning and growing, right? And when you get into the new world, newness, the thing that you never done before, that is very scary for a lot of people. So how do you define what is new in your life? What is newness?
It's things that I've never experienced before,
Ah,
and that, frankly, I couldn't have imagined before. When I think back to my company, if you ask me, 5 years back, I wouldn't even have known that this is a job. In fact, most people I talk to don't even know that this is a job.
oh,
And so that is newness to me. You go out there, you put yourself in a position where you don't know what's possible. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's not as if I know where I'm going. I didn't know I was going to get this job. I didn't know I was going to go in that direction and meet all these incredible people.
hmm.
I never knew. I couldn't know. So I put myself in positions where I can't know. And that's where new things come up.
So when you're in the position that you have no idea what it is, and you don't know where it's gonna take you, or what is that you're gonna do in that situation, what is that? If you're in that situation, how would you start the whole process of exploring and experimenting?
Usually it's not something I do actively.
Ah,
Usually it's an opportunity that passes me by. It can be a friend who says, "Hey, do you want to go to this event?" And I'm like, "I know nothing about this." All right, let's do it.
ah,
Or it could be in work, a business opportunity. Somebody comes up to me with an idea, and I'm like, "Hey, that's a cool idea. I don't know how to do it, But you know what? I'll communicate that openly, and then we'll try.
Ah,
I'll just go out there and try. It's so much of this doesn't have to be intrinsic. There's so many people approaching me with things that I never thought about. And that's, by the way, I think that's also part of the essence. Because how could you ever know things you can't know? But other people can know things you can't know. So if
ah.
they come with an idea that I have no idea about, that's when I convince myself to do it because I think, wow, that's wonderful. I've never heard of this. Let's do it.
So there's a whole saying that your our value is the value is the sum of all the five people you spend the time most, right? And with that
Mm-hmm.
curiosity, normally we will have so many new people that we can bring to our life. So I'm just curious to know what kind of people uh, are you going to invite into your inner circle?
I think the most important thing is character. And by character, I mean, integrity, speaking the truth, being people who want to work on themselves, improve themselves. Just people who are not happy to stay within the limits that have been set for them.
Mm,
People are happy to push these limits and ask questions and go beyond, because that's ultimately what I want too. I want to push limits. I want to go beyond what people expect and what I expect, frankly, because
yeah,
my mind is limited, just like everyone else's. So I need people who can help me and who I can help get further and overcome these things. So here's kind of a few things that I would look out for, that I look out for myself. One is I appreciate people who don't think like me.
wow.
And on the one hand, that means we get in a bunch of fights because we don't agree, right? We don't agree on politics, we don't agree on viewpoints, we don't agree on a lot of things. Sometimes it's just a restaurant. Um, but we talked about newness before. And newness means things I don't know anything about. And the people who know most about things I know nothing about is people who disagree with me. Of course, you have to get along on some level. You can't just be arguing all the time, but that's one thing I look at. I was talking about character before. That's the other big thing I look out for. So just people who can push you and who you can help as well.
And if you find those people, and what do you do? Because they are also the people who want to push themselves, who want to, grow in. So, what do you do for yourself for you to stay relevant in that relationship so that you can help them also on that path to, to newness and to greatness, though?
So I think one of the most important things in any kind of relationship, whether that is business, whether that is friends, whether that is more than that, is leading with generosity. And what I mean by that is doing things for people without expecting anything in return as an upfront. Right? Of course, there's a limit to this. There's certain people who will just use and exploit this behavior. And you recognize this eventually, and then you stop doing it. But a lot of the time, whether it's friends, whether it's family, whether it's business relationships, I will just do something for them. Take the example of Thomas,
Mm,
the former head of science at NASA.
yes.
When I started working for him, I did it completely for free. I did it before my working hours, after my working hours, on weekends. I would just work, and I didn't expect anything back. I didn't expect money from this. I knew that in the future there may be money in this, but there was never the idea.
Mm,
The idea was I have the opportunity to work with somebody as amazing as Thomas, and I want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do really cool things for you, and then hopefully, eventually we'll work together.
wow. So it's a game of give and you don't expect to take. So give and take is now only a give, and the taking will come or not coming. It doesn't matter. But you always have to believe that if you keep doing it right, then the right outcomes are gonna come. In the world full of instant gratifications, right? So we want things to be happening now, now, now. Where did you learn the wisdom of patience, of delaying gratification, of believing, doing something amazing? We need to take time to get the award later, outcomes later, not now. So that give you the energy to work in the morning before you go to work, in the evening after you go back, work on the weekend, work when you have time for something that you believe in.
I don't know. I was watching, really successful people, and I was kind of wondering what they do. And I was listening to podcasts, and I was talking to friends and people who I know who did successful things, and they tell me these kind of stories. And to me, it felt like what a lot of their most impressive stories had in common is that they started with doing something that couldn't reasonably expect it of them, right? They would just, and it doesn't have to be big things, by the way. I'm not saying go work for somebody for free all the time. Like, that's not my message. It could be something as simple as saying, hey, I just looked at your LinkedIn profile and I saw you had a typo on there. Thought it'd be nice to fix. It's not big. It's not important. But you just do it because you believe, it's the right thing to do, and you can do something nice for somebody else at basically no expense to yourself. So go do it. And then out of this, starts a conversation, and then you're talking with this person, and at the end of the talk you realize, hold up, there's a business opportunity here. But it didn't happen because I looked up this person's profile and said, hey, we should work together. It happened because I saw a typo on their LinkedIn post and was like, hey, I think you should fix this. And they appreciated it.
So where did you learn that path and that advice? Is it coming from Simon or from your mom?
I don't know. I'd say a bit of both. My dad works very, 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 very hard, and he's extremely smart. So I'd say I got a lot of the work ethic from him. My mom is, a social genius. She can get along with everybody, and so the two of them together are just a dream team that I appreciate to be able to learn from.
We got the privilege to interview Simon, your father, and we have no idea about your mom. And this is an opportunity for you to share a little bit about her wisdom. If you pick words of advice that she gave you when you were very little and you still remember its powerful lessons up until today, what was that she shared to you that you want to share with us, Lukas?
Yeah, one of the things she shared that is incredibly important to me and that I've carried with me all of my life is, don't be afraid of being different. You don't. So I was usually a different kid. I did things that nobody else did. I acted in ways other people sometimes didn't understand. I dressed in ways people sometimes didn't understand, or sometimes they thought it was cool. Sometimes they thought it was terrible. And obviously, especially in, school, that leads to issues. That leads to bullying, that leads to people laughing about you. And that's scary. That's really scary. Like, people talking about you, whether that's now in business or whether that's back in school, that's scary. If it's behind your back, doubly so. And so my mom sat down with me and she said, this is the way you are. If you can stand behind it and you believe that this is what makes you cool, then these people's opinions are just, they don't matter. They don't.
Wow.
Let them laugh. Let them be limited in their own limited world. You go out there and do stuff that they never thought anyone could do. And then be happy with that,
Wow. Remind me of the "Let Them and Let Me" theory by Mel Robbins, right? So let them and then let you be what you want to be. But it's not easy, Lucas. In the world, like a lot of, if you go to the school, and a lot of kids was like look at you differently and not cheers for the differences you have, or like bullying. And how did you like keep cool and still showing up with your own character like that, Lucas?
I struggled. But here's
Ah.
what I learned. Here's what I learned. The most important thing. There's two important things, but one is more important than the other.
Mm.
And the less important thing is, you just gotta build belief in yourself. Kind of look at the stuff you've done, see what is cool and why it's cool, and then build, a toolbox of things that you can be proud of, that you've achieved that are amazing, or even just good. They don't have to be amazing, right? So you have something to lean back on. That's the less important part. The most important part is a support network.
Supporting networks.
So all my life, and especially since I founded a company, I've realized support networks are incredibly important. People you can talk to when things go wrong, people you can get a hug from, comfort when you're feeling down, people you can share your success with, people you can go ask for help about things that you don't know how to do. There's so many things I don't know how to do, but I've got friends who know how to do them. So I can go to I don't have to despair at home. I can go talk to these friends, and they'll show me how it's done.
Wow.
And I think that's how you get over, well, over pretty much any challenge in life, but bullying included.
So from idea on to execution, from like worrying, moving to asking for your friends or the people in your network who knows that what you don't know, right? And that is leading to newness right there. So you take the W in the newness framework that we have is a what your first step. You start to do something, start to move your idea, you move yourself, you move to something that can lead into somewhere, right? And so your business, been in the business for how many years? 5, 6 years now?
No, 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 no. It's
Uh,
the third year. Yeah,
and the
yeah.
third year. And you mentioned that when you did this, you didn't even know it's an industry. That is something that you could, make money upon, right? Or add values upon. So how did you realize, that newness in the business that you're doing?
Yeah. So I told you the story of how this started, right? Thomas did this talk for us. We built his personal website. Me and Christian. Christian's an amazing guy. And we were sat in that meeting, and Christian said, Thomas, and you were talking about newness before. Here's another thing where I was just like, I don't know anything about this. Let's do it. Christian was in the meeting, was like, Thomas, if you want to go do public keynote speaking or consulting after your time, leading all science at NASA, you want someone between you and the price. Because if Thomas says he's the most successful head of science NASA ever had, that's arrogant.
Mm.
If I say it, I'm basing it on facts. Now, we can argue if he's the most successful or one of the most successful, but I can back that up. And I can talk about him a lot more positively than he can. And so that was a thing I didn't know anything about, right? I never knew about this, but I just thought, hey, that's a cool thing to do. Because I can talk with Thomas, who's an incredible guy, and I can learn new stuff while doing it. And again, I didn't know I was going to earn any money with this. I just
Mm.
thought, even if I don't, it's going to be worth it. Even if I don't, it's going to be worth it just because of the things I learn. And so I started doing it. And then, half a year in, we realized, oh, this is making money. and it was a lot more successful than we ever expected. It was so successful, actually, I had to found a company, otherwise it would have been illegal.
And now you represent many British names, right? And what did you do? Like I'm coming back into the question I asked very beginning of the conversation is what did you do differently that not only Thomas but the rest of the speakers were very elite on their field, accepting, a company is less than 2 years of age by Lucas and Christian, right? What is his name?
Christian, yeah.
Christian, yeah. Let the two of you representing for their names. So what did you guys do differently?
I would say that we did more than anyone could have expected us to do. As in, I don't only do the things that earn me money. Let's take the example. Let's say with the example of Thomas.
Hmm.
Of course, I do keynote speeches. Of course, and that's what earns me money. But also when there's, when TV wants something from him, I organize it. I just organized, a 3-hour interview on Sunday, and I was there the whole time. I didn't earn a single buck from this, but I think it's important. I think it's important to not just do things that are strictly expected of you, but also to do things that are just good and nice. And I was talking before about leading with generosity.
Yeah.
Pam Melroy, another one of my speakers, she was the deputy admin of NASA. So essentially the COO with a bunch of political positions as well. And she was introduced by Thomas to me. He recommended me, which I'm very grateful for.
Uh-huh.
And what I did is I built her personal website completely for free. Why? Because on the one hand, it's super, super cool and amazing to be able to work with somebody, who has gone to space, who's commanded the space shuttle, who helped build the International Space Station, and then led NASA. I mean, that's 17,000 employees, 25 billion budget a year. Like that's crazy, the amount of things you can learn from somebody as cool as Pam.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can build this website. It's not a huge amount of effort for me, but I get to talk to this person. I get to understand this person. I get to do something good. And I think that's what all my relationships, all my business relationships are based on. I just do things that cannot be expected of me. And then I also do the things that earn me money, of course.
Lucas, you have a very beautiful way of using your vocabulary. And I noted in here, you see my notes in here, okay? I'm old-fashioned. So you use the word I get to, so, because that is something that you want to do, you desire to do it, you get to do it, right? Where did you learn to use, words in a very positive way that can inspire, move you, and move the people who listen to your conversation also, Lucas?
Well, first off, thank you. I think there's 3 main parts to this. The first one is, in high school, I started writing poetry. And I stopped writing poetry only because I started writing songs. And I still write songs up to this day. So I very deliberately learn how to use language in a way that is aesthetic, makes sense to me, and evokes emotion. That's part 1. Part 2 is I looked very deeply into negotiation. And the book I'd recommend here for anyone out there who wants to learn negotiation is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Chris Voss.
He's an FBI hostage negotiator, or used to be the head of, that department. And he just shares so many amazing lessons on how communication works, on, how you can, have an impact on the world just through words alone. And
Yeah.
that's amazing. So I looked at that deeply and I learned everything I could about it, and I'm still not done. And then the third thing is, people expect, or maybe not expect, believe that you're born with the ability to speak well. There's just, right? There's just some people who are charismatic and some people who are not. There's some people who are good with words and there's some people who are not. And a lot of people believe, because they never thought about it, that this is something you're born with. And it's not. It's something you can train, like every other skill. There's patterns to conversation, there's patterns to language, patterns to arguments that you can learn and grow from. And so I very specifically do that. Sometimes I'll be talking with the cab driver. Actually, almost every time I'm in a taxi, I will talk to the driver. On the one hand, because they have interesting stories to tell, and on
Yeah.
the other hand, to practice speaking to people. So
Wow.
that's how.
Everywhere you travel.
Everywhere I travel. Yeah.
How could you nurture that curiosity for this long period of time and growing up to this level, Lucas? And I believe this is just the beginning also. It's always at the beginner stage for you. So what did you do to nurture it?
That's an incredible question. So the short answer is I don't know. The longer answer is my parents have put me in situations where I had to learn. You talk to Simon, my dad, and one funny thing he used to do when we were kids is he would tell us really stupid things and see how long it takes us to figure out they're not true.
Wow.
Right? He would say, back in the days, the world was black and white. Don't believe me? Just look at the pictures. You know?
Uh-huh.
The argument kind of makes sense, but
Uh-huh.
obviously it's not true. And so we'd always try to figure out. The first reaction was like, no, that's not true. Imagine my kid voice.
Uh-huh.
And then he was like, yeah, but just look at the pictures. And then we'd have to come up with explanations why it's not true. And I think that's one part of the equation. The next part of the equation is I believe you can never be perfect as a person. But I also believe the only way to become better is to constantly work on yourself. Right? And I want to be better. I want to be better all the time in everything I do. And working on myself means I need to learn new things. Because otherwise you don't even know what's possible. You don't even know what's out there. So that's step 2. And step 3 is I consume media that makes me curious. Veritasium, for example. And that's also why I reached out to Derek and why it's such a pleasure to work with him now. Things that show you perspectives on the world. And in this case, it's a YouTube channel that shows videos about science and videos about science-related things. And you watch them and you're like, wow, the world is incredible. And because you've had this feeling of, wow, the world is incredible, then you want more of that feeling. You're like, if it's so incredible, I want to know more. So I think these are the 3 ingredients. But again, I don't know. I don't know how curiosity works.
I think that when you say the world is incredible, Vivian and I, we always have that incredible moment in our life when we talk to, like you or anyone we have the opportunity to bring on the show. Anything they share, we always say, wow, it's incredible. Even if we already heard about similar things like that, but it's a different person, different context, different day, different feelings, and just the reminding of that beautiful things will help us to appreciate life a lot more and to put us back onto the stage of, hey, learner, There's so much that we don't know what, in this world, and let's continue to explore and to understand more, listen more of it, right? And tell us about the art side of you. We haven't touched that yet, and I'm incredibly want to know about, where is that coming into your life, into this picture also.
Yeah. You know, I wasn't an artsy guy as a kid. I really wasn't. My mum says I always used to be the pragmatic one. If I drew a car, you would know it's a car, but that's it. It has wheels, it has a body, done. Job
Mm.
done. And nowadays that's not so true anymore. I did a lot of I did a lot of drawing in high school. I started writing poetry. I started dancing. Right now, you touched upon it before. I'm a competitive dancer. I
Mm.
sing. That was part of the musical thing, and I still do it. Um, I play the piano. I play the guitar. I do a whole bunch of other stuff. Um, by the way, I also sew, like this, for example. It's
Uh-huh.
made by me, and of course, also, tied by me. This is not a this is not a bought and pre-tied tie. It's just you do this, and I still think that's important. I think it's very important. On the one hand, because it allows me to do things I otherwise wouldn't. It allows me to be very. By the way, I performed magic for 10 years. I
Yeah.
performed close-up magic for 10 years. And I'll just tell you three small stories.
Yes.
First one is dancing. Dancing allows me to move in ways that I wouldn't be able to otherwise. Because it builds strength, it builds coordination, it builds balance. And so whenever I do a moderation on a stage, my movements can only be so deliberate because I trained hours and hours and hours for them to be deliberate. And I didn't do dancing to become a better moderator. I did dancing because I loved it, but it allows me to be more deliberate on stage. Magic. I did magic because it fascinated me, because I thought the impact it has on people is amazing, right? It's just such a cool thing to do. But what it also forces you to learn is how to read people, how to talk to people, and how to tell stories. Because every magic trick is a story. And so, I did 10 years of magic and I practiced an hour or two every day. And a lot of that time was spent telling stories. And so
Wow.
now when I talk to people, that's where that comes from. By the way, it also allows you to become less nervous on stage because I have a lot of hours on stage. So as that. And the third one is, I drew in high school. I was drawing in high school. And that has led to a good understanding of structure, of color, of composition, that when I'm building a website nowadays for someone like Pam, is just, it's there. And I didn't do it because I thought it would be good in life afterwards, right? In high school, I wasn't thinking about this job. I wasn't thinking about building websites. Um, but because I trained this visual skill, then I suddenly have an understanding for beauty and aesthetics and form and function. And so that's why I believe in arts.
Wow. Lucas, it reminds me of a big lesson in life. A lot of people out there were chasing for the big things, right? And they underappreciate the power of small little things that we do every day. The small little, uh, time that you spend for drawing, or learning how to dance, learning how to balance your body, learning to tell the story, learning to and do the magic. But if you can, put all of those learning together, believe that's going to take you to somewhere in the future, and look at all of that beauty, turn out in the works that you do today. You connect with people better. You have the curiosity. You know your body. You know how to entertain the people, how to add values to the conversation that make people wow, and all of that giving you the huge advantage over like can
Thank
lead
you.
you to more in the future, right? And that a lot of time you spend on working, not knowing how it's going to take you, where it's going to take you. So when you dance, when you drawing, when you read like books and write poems or wrote poems, right? What was in your head about that moment and about the moment that may be coming after that in the future, Lucas?
Honestly, mostly nothing.
Ah,
Mostly nothing. When I'm dancing, I'm not thinking. I'm not, and that's a cool thing. Yet I worked a long day. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm emotionally done, and I go out to dance, and it just I see smiling people. We move together, and you just kind of you enjoy the music, you enjoy the movement, the connection, and there's not a lot of thought behind it. I'm not thinking about life's wonders, or maybe I'm thinking about the next move I'm going to do or how a certain sequence worked, but a lot of it is just feeling. And the same with writing texts. You know, maybe I had a breakup. Maybe I'm writing about a breakup. Or maybe I met someone new and I'm writing about someone new. Um, but it's not deeply philosophical. It's just nice to do. And the incredible thing, by the way,
mm,
is I was tired after the day, and I was done after the day, and then I go dancing or do any of the other stuff, and then when I'm done with this, I'm ready for the next day.
like you
It just kind
recharge.
of recovers you. Yeah.
Ah, wow. So it's in you, there's a world of logical inside of you, there's a world of like sensible world inside of you. So which word, what's the ratio that govern your day in regularly in a normal day?
I would say 70-30, 70 rational, 30 emotional.
Ah,
Again, it's very hard to split these things apart because, I mean, obviously, when I'm thinking I'm rational, I still have feelings. It's not like I turn off my feelings. But I would say about, 70% of the things I do during my day are driven by logic primarily, and then 30% are driven by feelings.
tell us about the recent one at the what I wrote down here is the dance club in Switzerland. Share with us.
And that was an amazing story. Yeah, I had a dance partner at the time that I unfortunately don't have at the moment. And we were practicing together. We met out dancing and we started teaching a class together. And at
Ah,
one point she said, "You know what? One of my dreams has been to go to Swiss championships." And we talked about newness before, right? I'd never thought about going to Swiss championships. That hadn't been on my mind. And I said, "You know what? Let's do it. Let's do it." And then we started practicing like crazy. Like crazy. We do 5-6 hours every Sunday. And then, as well during the week. Well, not 5-6 hours every day during the week, but, time during the week.
uh-huh.
Um, and we went to the Swiss championships and we completely flunked. I think, well, I mean, we got third place, which isn't completely flunked, but um, like halfway through, we forgot the choreography. We were just improvising. Oh boy, we were so mad afterwards. But we just kept going. We just kept at it. We kept practicing, and then we went to Dance Cup Switzerland, which is one of the other big dance events.
Ah,
And we just worked very hard. We had our own style, and people liked it. People liked it, and so we won, and that was an incredible feeling to stand on stage next to, other dancers that you respect, and some of them are friends, some of them you don't know,
Ah,
and you just kind of stand there and you're like, wow, we put all this work in, and now we're up there. Incredible.
bring me and the audience to that moment that you stand up in the front, in that stage. Okay, what happened in your head back then? What run in your head?
I was just stood there with this incredible feeling of proudness.
Mm.
Because, I didn't go in there expecting I would win. I really didn't. I went in there with the idea that I'm going to try my hardest. And, if I make it to the podium, I will be happy. That's what I said to myself before the competition. And now you're standing up there and, you're very proud, both of yourself, but also of your partner. I mean, she did all the stuff I did as well. We did this together. I couldn't have done it alone. And I mean that in more than one way. I don't just mean, obviously, this is a partner dance, so I have to have a partner. But that's not what I mean when I say I couldn't have done it alone. What I mean is, one example is I was sick one day in training. And I was like, hey, I can't come. And she was like, hey, no worries, don't worry about it. And on midnight that day, I get a video where she's like, hey, I'm gonna go home now. I just finished the solo parts choreography.
Wow.
So I was sick. She just went in there alone and pulled out the choreography and trained it. And then next time she showed it to me. Right? That's what I mean with people who push you.
Character.
And I, of course, did the same to her. And these kind of moments go through your head and what they build up to. And then there's an incredible feeling of proudness where you're just standing there and being like, wow, we did it.
Yeah. Wow. That's the power of accountability partner, right? And we need a lot of people like that in this world, in the team, in the family, in the society. A lot of leaders needs to, really show up with that character. Be a accountable person. You mentioned in this conversation about growing, and my wife and I, we always love to have people to grow through expand their ability to think, because we believe that thinking is very critical, and if we can improve our ability to think, perhaps that's the starting point of the change that important in life. And there's no better way for us to do, and more than asking the people who join this conversation to share their secrets behind thinking. So whoever listens can pick some points in the wisdom that they share and start to reflect, to learn, and to apply in their life. So, Lucas, how have you been expanding your ability to think over the years?
So I think the important question it comes down to is what do you want? And I'll explain what I mean by that. A whole while ago, somebody asked me, what do you think the purpose of life is? What do you think the purpose of life is? And I didn't know. So I sat down and I thought about it a whole lot. And my conclusion was, it doesn't matter what the purpose of life is. Because if it exists or if it doesn't exist, I don't know. I just don't know. I can't know. But what I can know is what the purpose of my life is. Right?
Yeah.
What I want to achieve. And so I sat down thinking about that. And the solution I reached was, on the one hand, to have a happy and healthy life myself. But then, on the other hand, to help the people around me who I love. And push them, help them, be their support. We talked about, networks that help you both in good and bad times. Be that. And there's only really, in my mind, there's only really one way to achieve this. If I want to be able to help the people around me, that means I need to understand more of the world. And that means I have to go out there and do stuff and learn stuff and be able to, create opportunities. So I have to go talk to people. I have to go meet people. I have to go change things, move things, create openings where everyone that I love and appreciate also gets a benefit, also goes to go forward. And learn more about life in general and the world and relationships. And so whenever a friend comes to me with a question and I can answer it, that makes me happy. And my friends, I want to help them. I want to help them, become the best version that they can be, and without me forcing it on them. Right? I'm not going out there and calling my friends and being like, hey, by the way, you should learn this right now. Sometimes I do. But when they come to me and they ask, hey, could you help me on a negotiation? Yes, of course.
Wow.
I would love to. So that's why I think you just got to keep learning.
Wow. Lucas, thank you so much. And a week ago, I'm bringing back, because life is not always about like black and white like your father tested you guys back then, right? It's a lot of different kind of colors. And I think that what you shared about a week ago on LinkedIn, that stay with me and Vivian for a long time, because we felt a responsibility as a friend to tap on your shoulder, give you a big hug, and say, "Wow, you're doing well, and things gonna happen.
Thank you.
Days gonna happen like that, and you're gonna be in the not in the right mood." And so on certain days like that, as a performing arts or as the business person, what do you do to help you to get to the new days and to the newness again with a new kind of energy to to lean on to a new and the better days?
Yeah. So for those of you who missed this in the past part of the conversation, last week, I had a very bad day. Just nothing worked out. I came late to a meeting. I took the wrong train, and I realized way too late, so I missed an event. It's a bad day. And I sat there in the evening with an ice cream tub, a kilogram of ice cream. Should I be proud of that? Did I do it? Yes. And I think there are kind of a few ways of getting over this. On the one side, I just do stupid things that make me happy for a moment. Eating ice cream. Is it healthy? No. Should you do it every day? No. When you have a bad day, I mean, if it helps you get through the bad day, just go do it.
Yeah.
Eat that type of ice cream. Just go. That's the one side. The other side is, honestly, a lot of problems become a lot smaller when you just sleep over them. And so that's what I do on those days. I just realize, hey, stuff just doesn't work out today. So whatever I can afford to not do today, I'm not going to do today. I'm just going to push it to tomorrow. I know I'll have to work harder tomorrow, but I'll wake up tomorrow and it will be a better day, as cliche as that sounds. And then the third thing, again, is to, reach out to friends. And have that support network that, well, supports you, even on bad days,
You mentioned every time I asked a question, normally you gave me, two, or more normally you gave me three things. Only one time you gave me two, and then the rest of that were like three things. Why did you pick number three, but not four, not five, but three things, Lucas?
I think it's, well, two or three things.
Two or three things.
On the one side, my head works in a very structured way. So when we're talking, I essentially have a stack of topics I want to bring up in my head, and I keep working through them. And it's very structured, so the responses I give are also very structured, right? You talking about something, I have an idea, I put it on the stack. I have an idea, I put it on the stack. And then I take a quick look at the stack, and I'm like, okay, there's a few ideas there. And then it's a matter of prioritizing. And I often take 3 because I think, it's a good number. It gives a good idea of what I want to say, of the things I want to say, without going super, super, super in depth. Because of course, all of those points I mentioned before, there's a lot more to say.
Yeah.
But you and I, we have limited time. The people who are listening have limited time. So I just kind of try to narrow it down in such a way that I can get across the most important things and then leave it at that to respect other people's time.
As part of the newness process, we also want to help people to understand how to bring what you have stuck in here out to explain in a very short notice. Like I ask you a question, you re-examine what you had in here, and then in about a second or two, you bring out something to share with our audience that makes a lot of good sense, a lot of good insight in there for them to practically use for, when they listen to the conversation. So how did you do the process of, taking it out, organize that 3 things, and present them?
This is another thing we talked about before, about talking skills and how people believe you can't learn them. They're just inborn. I think it's the same thing here. Structure and being able to open up your thoughts to other people, to present your thoughts in a way that is understandable to them, is something you practice. It's not something you're born with. It's something you practice. And well, the question is how, right?
Yes.
And I would say the easiest way to practice is by telling stories. You're telling stories in a very intentioned way. And what I mean by that is before you tell the story, you imagine where you want the story to go, what, the climaxes of the story, what the start should be of the story. So you have an image of the story in your head, and then you try to tell the story in a way that is engaging, but clear. And then you just do that 1,000 times. You tell stories to friends. You tell stories to anyone who will listen. Sometimes I'm talking to people at cash registers, because I have to wait 10 minutes until my train arrives. They're bored. All right, training time. Free training time. They enjoy a story. I get to practice. So
Lucas.
that's you study, argument structures. How do arguments work? What are rhetorical patterns that incredibly successful people have used in the past? You look at them and then you try to learn them, to replicate. You use them 1,000 times. That's how.
Wow. So time for writing poetry, reading, negotiations, and play, and then do the what is it called? The magic, right? The what is that?
Close-up magic.
Close-up magic, right? And then you start to learn to tell the stories over and over and over and over, and the process of learning is discovering. So that's the saying also, like we are the story we tell ourselves. So what story are you telling yourself every day, Lucas?
Oh, huh. That's a tough question. What story do I tell myself every day? I think the story that I tell myself every day is, who do I want to be?
Wow.
Who do I want to be? And what I mean by that is, I have a picture. Sometimes in life, decisions are hard. It can be something simple like what kind of food should I eat? But it can also be a lot more complex, like you're talking to a friend and you have an option that benefits them, you have an option that benefits you more. Which one do you recommend? And there might be a morally correct answer to that, but that doesn't make these kind of questions easier.
Yeah.
And there's so many decisions out there every day, and it can get very easy to lose yourself in decisions. Because if you have to think about every decision in excruciating detail and essentially negotiate every decision with yourself, you're going to be tired by midday. You know? If you have to negotiate every decision, you're gonna be tired.
Yeah.
And so I have this image in my head of who I want to be, who I believe I should be. And whenever a decision comes up, I just go, what would he do? Right? What would
Wow.
this guy that I want to be do? And the answer is usually clear. And so I spend a lot less time on decisions because I don't need to decide. I already decided when I thought about who I want to be. And so now I can just roll with that.
So you will spend a lot of time first to define what is the guy that Lucas want to become, what values he's gonna, adhere to and show up to the world. And the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the after that it's just revisiting to double check on that and renewing it. But the day in, day out, you already have a guiding stuff answering the to help you to make decisions in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a beautiful one. Thank you.
Happy to. Happy to.
Two last questions for these conversations. Okay. And I always love travel time. And I want to bring you to travel time with me to one of the day you at the middle school or high school. On one of the days that not going to be a good day, people next to you is not cheering you up, or like they're gonna like not celebrating your differences, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you and I are gonna get into that school. You and I are gonna sit next to that young Lucas, and the Lucas now is going to talk to that Lucas, and you're gonna share something. You're gonna send a message to him back then. So what is that you're gonna talk to that young Lucas?
Oh, yeah. I would say do things that nobody else dares to do. And what I mean by that is what I learned in, this, well, my life up to this point, but also building this company, is there's so many things out there that people believe to be impossible. And when you try them, people are going to tell you it's not going to work out. It's not worth the effort, Don't do them. And I think you should do them anyway. And one example is Derek Muller. He built the Veritasium YouTube channel to 20 million followers and 4 billion views. So very successful. I didn't know him. I didn't know him at all. I just saw a YouTube video of him. Well, I mean, I'd been following him for a while, but one specific video sparked this idea. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool to have him as a keynote speaker and, to share everything he does to more people? And so I just reached out to him completely blind. I didn't know him. I didn't even know, if he was going to get the message or not. I just went, shoot, let's do it. And even myself, I was doubting myself, I was sitting there and it's like, I've never worked with a YouTube star. I have other famous people that I work with, but never with a YouTube star. He doesn't know me. Nobody recommended me to him. Like, he doesn't know anything about me. It's probably going to look at it and have a quick giggle and move on.
Yeah.
But I did it. And he responded. And, fast forward a few weeks, he's on my website now. Like I can sell his services, which is incredible. And there's been so many things where other people believed they're not possible or they're not worth the effort. And sometimes even myself, I believed they weren't possible. But I just tried. And And so many of them have worked out that to younger Lucas, I would say just go do things other people wouldn't dare. Maybe even yourself wouldn't dare.
Wow. You look at what we do, what you and I are doing, right? 4.5 years ago, 100% of the people on our network say it's a stupid idea. We're from Vietnam. You speak very bad English. Nobody gonna listen to this. We did it anyway. Right? We reach out to one
Yeah.
person to the next, one person to the next, and share our intention, share our curiosity and true admiration for their story, for their journey, and ask them sincerely to join. Now we have you, we have Thomas, we have Simon, and no, who knows what's next, right? So
Mm-hmm.
your father was a person that Vivian and I were first testing to send a message to somebody that he would love to send if we could be that messenger. And look at what we do. You become a person in between for your speakers, right? To companies. I'm a person who in the middle to send a message from one person to the next. And if you can think of a person, I know this question is not going to be fair because there would be so many people, but if there's one person you would love to send a message to that person, and want us to be the person to do that, to deliver that message. So who's that person and the message that you're going to give to that person?
So this is tough because there's a lot of people to choose from, right?
Yeah.
And I love my family dearly. I love my friends dearly. I love my brothers dearly. I mean, these are incredible people. And by the way, I do give them a message quite often, just to tell them how amazing they are.
Cute.
But one person that this conversation reminded me of is Christian.
Your friend.
And yeah. And I wouldn't have this company without Christian. There's no way. I wouldn't have had the idea. And then I wouldn't have been able to execute it. So Christian is such an amazing influence on what I'm doing right now, and everything that I've been able to achieve up to and including joining this podcast. And I think for that, he's an amazing person, and I will always appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And then I will reach out to you on WhatsApp to ask for his contact so that I can send this part of the interview to him.
Will do.
And I hope that whoever listened to this conversation will have that kind of friend, the friend that pulls us to go into the zone of newness, the one who uplift us when we less of believing in ourselves, the one who celebrate life with us when we're good and when we're bad, and see the potential in us, right? So it's important. And Lucas, it's a beautiful conversation. It's a beautiful, and we are honored for our friendship, to know you, and we're really looking forward to having an opportunity to have a cup of coffee, have a cup of ice cream with you when you're here, even if it's a good day for sure, but it's still having anything when you're here and celebrate life. Okay?
I think if I come meet you, it will be a good day.
I know, and I look forward to that. Meanwhile, I wanted to say, have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for being so generous to spend your time to share this beautiful conversation and a lot of wisdom in here. I wish you all the best, wish your family all the best, and from time to time, share with us how the business is going, and you will always have fans from Vietnam who quietly celebrate and cheering with you. Okay?
Will do, and I appreciate it. Give all my best, Vivian.
Okay.
And I hope we see each other pretty soon.
Me too. I hope that too. Bye-bye for now, Lucas. Thank you very, very much. Bye-bye.